Hello, I'm Rex Basterfield and I'd like to welcome you to a video about my Quilcom SIM-DILRUBA. After I'd released my SIM-SITAR, someone suggested I have a go at a SIM-DILRUBA, and of course I didn't know what one of those was, so I looked it up and I had a go. Essentially, it's a bowed sitar. And there are several differences between the regular sitar and a DILRUBA, which I go into some detail in the user guide and the background info. Initially, I thought I could get away with just using the SIM-SITAR, but make it into a bowed version, maybe with a different envelope generator. But in fact, the sound is so different, I had to redesign the sound generating engines. One of the important differences is that, although you can see fret bars, the strings are not fretted while they're being bowed. There's a light touch of the finger by the player, which means they can produce lots of glides or portamento. So the fret bars are there simply to guide the player as to where to put his or her finger. Bowed instruments seem to be the most difficult instrument to simulate using synthesis, and it's made especially more difficult when you consider the portamento aspect. With that in mind, I hope you'll find some forgiveness in your heart if this SIM-DILRUBA doesn't quite meet your expectations. So now I'll go over the basics of the instrument, and for all the details please have a look at the user guide. Maybe read the whole thing or just refer to it if there's something you're not sure about. If you click on the info button, you'll get notes about how to play the instrument. For instance, the melody is played from G2 to G5. You can bow the open strings, change the bowing direction, start and stop the Tanpura drone, and use the sustain pedal to turn the portamento on and off. So on the pitch panel you can change the tonic or root note of the whole instrument, including the Tanpura, the open strings, etc. And you can change the key that you play in, so you could set C sharp there and C sharp there, and when you play on C it actually plays C sharp. You can set fine tuning there and the pitch bend range there. According to my ears, one of the important characteristics of the DILRUBA sound, especially when it's played fast, are the slight pitching errors you get because the finger doesn't always stop at the exact right point to get the note. So with the errors knob you can adjust the amount of random errors. I'll demonstrate that now. I'll set the errors to maximum, which gives a range of plus or minus 33 cents. Now glide or slide or portamento is a very important part of the DILRUBA sound, so I'll talk about that now. To turn on glide we have to do two things. One, we can either turn it on with the sustain pedal, the knob operating now, or of course with the on-screen switch, which can be automated. The other thing we have to do is to play legato, so we play a note before we release the previous note, and those two things together will enable the glide and the speed we set with the glide knob. This glide knob is a basic value, and if we play at a higher velocity the glide will be faster. Also, the distance between the two notes will make a difference up to 12 semitones, and there'll be no increase in glide speed beyond that wherever you play on the keyboard. The return button sets the legato mode, so if you play one note and hold that and go to the second one and then release the second one, there'll be no return to the original. But if you turn it on, and with glide, that's especially useful. If you turn on rebow, you can use the higher notes that don't actually make a sound to simulate a change in the bowing direction. So now I'll talk about the sympathetics, the sympathetic strings, which are not played directly, but they resonate in sympathy with the melody strings being played. This creates a reverb-like sound without actually having reverb. So to demo this, I'll turn off the reverb and the room simulator so that you can just hear the sympathetics. Now you can set all the sympathetic strings on, in which case you get a chromatic response which to my ear sounds a little bit messy, and on the real instrument they're normally tuned to have the major scale. So if you turn all the black notes off, I think you get a nicer sound. The decay sets the decay of the sympathetic strings, and the bus simulates a Jawari bridge, a buzzing bridge, on the lower notes. The Tanpura drone is exactly the same synthesizer as on the SIM-SITAR. It's an instrument that's often used to provide a backwash or a sort of canvas for the main performance from the Dilruba or from singing or from the sitar. There's lots of information about this, but I'll run through the controls just as a demo. You turn it on with C# or pressing the play button. So on the mixer we can set the level of the Tanpura drone, the level of the melody strings, and the level of the sympathetic strings, and we can pan the Tanpura in the stereo field as well as the main Dilruba. Now if we have valve selected, that's for velocity, then there is a range of velocity control over the signal. If we change that to swell, then we can control the volume of the Dilruba with the knob, or in which case we can select CC11 to control the knob, which is a foot pedal controller. Now these four controls, the performance and the amount, or the mix, the bass and treble, gives us a very wide range of timbres, and I've made 4 different sounds on the presets, so I'll show you those now. So that's my Quilcom SIM-DILRUBA, and I hope you can find a use for it, and until the next time, bye!